You're welcome to the Policy Council. Today, I want to focus on entrepreneurship. I want to help many of those out there who are interested in entrepreneurship in discovering what factors help in being a successful entrepreneur. Perhaps I also wish with today's edition to complement government policy in terms of the promotion of entrepreneurship. So I have two guests in two different segments. One, lecturer in entrepreneurship at the Lagos Business School, and the other, a successful entrepreneur. And together we'll get both sides of successful entrepreneurship, from the consultant and lecturer and from the practitioner. Enjoy the program. We're on the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje again. And my guest today is a lecturer and consultant on entrepreneurship at the Lagos Business School, Henrietta Onwegbuze. Hetty, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Okwemi.
Okay, let me start by asking you, can you really teach someone entrepreneurship? Are you not wasting your time? Aren't entrepreneurs born?
Well, irrespective of your natural predispositions, you need to hone your skills. And so you can always improve your natural inclination towards entrepreneurship or develop the ability to be a good entrepreneur.
Okay.
And it does help.
Yes, I know you do research in entrepreneurship. Is there empirical evidence to show the impact of training or academics in the area of entrepreneurship on the output of entrepreneurs?
I haven't found external research on this topic, but I've read the biography of several entrepreneurs, and I find that the most successful ones are avid readers and people who have trained. And so I have empirical evidence, both at home and abroad, that training definitely improves your abilities and improves your performance.
Okay, let me take it from another angle. I've looked at a lot of entrepreneurs myself as a specialist in this area. What do you think is the best way to prepare for entrepreneurship? Is it by getting some education? Is it by working in a big firm? Is it by mentoring under somebody? What exactly prepares you best for entrepreneurship?
There are different ways to prepare, but I think from personal research that apprenticeship experience actually seems to be the strongest means of developing the skills that will enhance your success. My PhD research is on indigenous knowledge entrepreneurs, and you'll find that entrepreneurship is intrinsic to the African tradition because people naturally learn from their parents or relatives, and by the age of 12 or even earlier become experts in a skill or trade that will take them through life when they become adults. And you'll find that those people who go through the apprenticeship system tend to succeed. By the time you spend 6 years as an apprentice, the chances of succeeding in business are higher.
So these Igbo traders who spend maybe 5 years, 10 years under somebody and then they go out on their own, they know something about entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. Because they've seen the different facets of the business, they've seen what works and what doesn't, they've understood the need to evolve because customer needs are changing. They may not use those terms, but they have that native intelligence. And from my research, because I've interviewed at least 40 different indigenous knowledge entrepreneurs, I have found that we do have something we can teach the West. And so far, I've spoken about it in different conferences in different countries, and it's been well received. Apprenticeship is very strong because it combines many factors. Training in a school also helps, and of course, on-the-job training consolidates. Yeah.
Is there a cultural dimension to entrepreneurship? Is there something in the culture of the Igbos that incline them to be traders? Is there something in the culture of the Ijebus that teach them to be prudent? Is there something in the culture of the Jeshaman that teaches him to be aggressive in pursuit of money? Is there a cultural dimension?
Absolutely. You'll find that people who are born into families where their parents are entrepreneurs tend to have that inclination, and those who are born into a family where the parents are
maybe civil servants,
civil servants also have that orientation. So that the way we're brought up affects our orientation.
So the family environment is also a factor.
Definitely, definitely.
What do you think are the constraints to developing entrepreneurs in Nigeria?
Well, the
or to successful entrepreneurship?
The get-rich-quick mentality to start with. And because people want to start big. They're not ready to think big, but start small. So, but if you're thinking of starting big, you're inclined to thinking of shortcuts that don't lead to sustainability. But if you have a vision and you're ready to start small with whatever you have and work gradually towards that goal, you're likely to succeed. Okay,
let's take a break on that interesting note and be back to explore further entrepreneurship with Henrietta Ubese. I'm still on the Policy Council and I still have Henrietta with me. Henrietta, what about policy? Are there things you think government policy can do to support entrepreneurship, to promote entrepreneurship, to empower entrepreneurs in Nigeria?
I know that there's a new policy that says entrepreneurship must be studied by all students, irrespective of the courses they're registered for in the university. So whether you're studying engineering, law, marketing, social sciences, you're expected to take a course in entrepreneurship. And I think that's a brilliant, that's a brilliant step. As a doctor or lawyer, you still need to understand the business side of things. So that also prepares people to come out of school ready to hit the ground running.
Which is the next question I was going to raise. Essentially, the way education in Nigeria has been structured has tended to prepare our people for employment. It almost gives you an employment mentality.
Absolutely.
Rather than, so there's a dependency. I've gone to school, so I need a job. And somebody's responsibility to give me a job.
You know, traditionally, we didn't have that orientation. However, those of us who didn't go through that system but went through the Western system where and have gone to primary school, secondary school, university, done a master's, even a doctorate, still have that orientation of being employed or feeling despondent. So it's not just a Nigerian system, it's the universal system, so to speak.
In fact, I would say, I tend to come from the strategy and sometimes maybe the political economy side of things. I would say it's a product of colonialism, that dependency in Africa.
Absolutely.
The typical African family where they had a farm, you learned how to be a farmer, and you continued as a farmer, or they did this, or they were blacksmiths, or every family had a profession
that they were well known for.
And if you wanted your son to do something you didn't do, you sent him for apprenticeship with some relative who was an expert in that area.
Absolutely. So the traditional system had an employment entrepreneurial orientation, and the colonial system had presents the orientation towards needing to be employed.
It tended to educate people to work with the colonial civil service.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go on to one of the things which, if you ask the average Nigerian who thought he wanted to be an entrepreneur, what his biggest constraint is, he would say finance.
Absolutely, that's what they always say.
What's your experience?
If you have a good idea, it will fly, and you can actually start business without money. Because entrepreneurship is about being creative, it's about value creation. And the creativity also comes into play when you're thinking of how to start irrespective of how much you have. There are very many big businesses today that started without money, or with people selling from the boot of their cars.
I tend to say the same things to clients, to young people, to church groups, any opportunity I have. And my favorite example is Michael Dell. And I say that he started from the garage of his bedroom
before he dropped out of school,
and then to a garage. And the question is, why did he start like that? He would have loved to build a big warehouse.
It was very practical.
And then he created a business model around that. He built only to order.
Absolutely.
Because he had only $1,000. But our people always say, no, the bank will not give me loan. I need 30 million.
And why should the bank give you 30 million when you haven't shown that you can manage 30 million successfully? So for example, I don't have any money and I want to go into business. And I know that the Lagos Business School has a lot of printing jobs. I don't have to have a printing press, but I may know someone who has a good quality printing press. So I go to the person and I say, can we have an agreement whereby if I bring in printing jobs, you give me a commission, or you give me a price and I can give the client my final price?
In fact, I know a gentleman, and I wrote a case study in my short academic career on precisely a guy who did exactly that in printing.
So without having a printing press, you go to where the orders are needed, you get the order, go back to the printer, He prints for you at an agreed price, and you make your cut.
Let me ask you my final question. What are the requirements for successful entrepreneurship? What factors make for successful entrepreneurship?
First, value creation. Understanding that you need to be fulfilling a need. Henry Ford was one of the richest men in his days. He was asked what he would do if he lost all his wealth. People thought he would say, oh my God, don't even talk about it. He simply said, well, I'll simply look out for a need, and in 5 years' time, I'll be as rich as I am today. Once you're fulfilling a real need, your market is guaranteed. That first. Second is entrepreneurial leadership. That win-win mindset. Win for the customer, win for my staff, win for the organization. You can't pursue a business forgetting that you're working with people who have needs. If you want to gain the commitment of your staff who will help your business succeed, you've got to look after them. And I frequently tell people, yes, you have external customers who bring in the money, but you also have internal customers, your staff.
Okay.
Two important customer segments. However, in spite of both of them being important, your staff are even more important, because if they're happy, they'll make the external customer happy, and they will bring in more customers. If they're unhappy, they can't make happy external customers.
Most businessmen will tell you
otherwise, yes.
Otherwise.
Absolutely, absolutely. But experience eventually teaches them that the other way to go is more sustainable, more successful.
Thank you very much, Henrietta. It's been a good discussion, and one day you'll be back on the Policy Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
We're still talking entrepreneurship on the Policy Council. And my guest on this segment is someone who's a friend, but who, more importantly, is a very successful entrepreneur. He's built a business from scratch, and his name is Tokunbo Talabi, CEO of Superflux Group. You're welcome, Tokunbo.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start with your background. Did you have a privileged background where did you inherit money?
No, categorically no. I wouldn't say that I come from a deprived background. So it's just like my father is a civil servant, so you know that basic stuff. And so there was nothing in that space to say that this is the stuff you are coming with. So everything that we did, we just basically did from scratch.
Okay, so tell me, in what way were you prepared for entrepreneurship?
The way the preparation comes is all the various experiences you've had when I was growing up. And some of it included having to be trading with my mom. Because she's a petty trader, so she sells clothing materials with all that stuff things. Unlike in all other cases, we also had a very interesting training that may not be the classical training that you see, the conventional training that we see, because we're a group of boys and we do quite a lot of things together. Inherent in that practice is the fact that we like to make some money for ourselves. So we will go to dump sites and pick up, we call it copy at that time. We pick up all sorts of precious metal, like usually brass, and then we beat it together, or we burn cables, take off all the rubber, and then we take it to the metal companies, and they weigh it and they pay us some money. Now, you may say that...
At what age were you doing that?
I probably started doing that at about 7, 8. So the main motivating factor is that I get to buy a live crab to cook, and that is the reason why I would always go to the dump site. We really don't need the money to survive at that point, but it was just something we do. And so for me, I think that issue of what time do you go out, you need to time the time you go to the dump site when fresh stuffs are coming in. Little things that ordinarily you do for fun became how to appraise the market, where to maneuver, how to position yourself, when do you get to the man who is buying. So we go to the man who is buying the metal. When we see a lot of metal there, we kind of stay back. But when we see that they are very low, we all rush in our stuff and get some kind of premium.
And then there's something, and Tokunbo has written an interesting book, The Mind's Game. what he calls an inspiring guide for entrepreneurial success. There's some story in your book that when you were a little child, you even literally dragged people to buy from your mom.
Yeah. She sells clothing materials, and it's in the typical market where each store is like this small cubicle, and you can only sit in here. So when we finish from school, we go there, and anybody who is passing by, you need them to get into the shop to see. And because people generally tend to love children, and they don't want a child crying. So we master the act, and then we just go, 2-3 of us, we just go and physically drag the person, please,
come and buy for my mom.
Please. Out of not wanting to hurt us, they will enter the store and they buy. The funny thing is that they buy.
Okay, and then you went on at some stage to film renting while a student. Tell me about that.
I guess that somewhere in entrepreneurship is just the fact that you want to do new things, not so much as you make the money, but that satisfies something in you. So yes, I was part of this in Scala Club, this process, but I just felt that in Ife, that was the first time I showed the film. I just heard about the prospect, and the thought of coming to Lagos, rent a film, take it back to Ife was quite enticing, and we did it, and we made quite a lot of money from it. That was just about the time I was leaving Ife. So the first thing I did as soon as I got into Unilag, but that
you
time,
went to Unilag for an MBA?
For an MBA, yes. At that time, believe me, I actually needed
You needed the money?
Yes. So the last thing I did that was successful was this film showing, and I said, well, I'm in a new area. Let me see if I can test this thing there. And it was also a success, and I did it with my friend.
And you paid your way through the MBA?
Yes, I paid.
Yourself?
I paid.
Based on those
little things we're doing, like the firm, we sold a couple of things, and contrary to what people think, you make so much money from those things that a third party will not believe that you can make money from there. Like you see people with small store on the street, they're selling sweets and all that, you just assume, how much can these people make? But if you sit down and do some numbers for them, people selling recharge card, hey, they do turnovers.
Let's take a short break and continue with Tokunbo's inspiring story.
My name is Femi Durojai. Welcome to the new Lagos, where things are improving every day. I work on the island and live on the mainland. But that's no longer a problem. With improved roads, I get to work faster. Sometimes I even leave my car and use the Bria bus, which is comfortable, fast, efficient, and reliable. After a hard day's work, the nights and evenings are even more fun. The streets are better lit, and the city is more secure, so I can catch my phone in peace. I pay my taxes because I want to continue enjoying the good things a big modern city like our Lagos brings. So it's my taxes that makes them real. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
I'm still with Tokunbo Talabi, CEO of Superflux Group on the Policy Council. Tokunbo, so let me ask you an academic question, which those of us who have done some little research in entrepreneurship always wonder about. Do you learn to be an entrepreneur, or is this something you are born with?
It could be a combination of both, but essentially you learn it. You might be placed in an environment where you learn it at different levels or different skills, but essentially you learn it. In the process of learning, there are different categories of learning that you go through. Yes, I could say that I learned the basic rudimentals with my mom, with the boys around, picking up things at dump site and all that. That gives you the flair for business.
For venturing, yeah.
Then I went to work with a gentleman called John Bedola as the first official whatever, and he's a small, average, medium-sized business person, and I work one-on-one with him. So he downloaded directly to his values, which is basically prudence, how to read the market at that level, how to conserve money, how to do all that stuff. So I now learned the street application in a matured setting. Then I went to Guarantee Trust Bank, and I cannot even say which one of these three is more important. Because what Guarantee Trust Bank then gave you is like you went to a finishing school where I make an analogy with a cook. A cook. It's the same carrot that you cook. It's the same garbage that you put in your food. But when a professional chef presents it, he presents it with some dramatization and all that. That is the finishing school that a Guarantee Trust has given you to say, look, even when I'm presenting an idea to you, I know how to organize those things. It's still part of entrepreneurship, learning. But if you look at all those 3 levels, you are basically learning it.
And then you went on to found Superflux School.
Yes.
Tell me about that story in a few minutes. At what point you decided, yes, I need to go out of GTB? And then what you've learned through building Superflux?
Well, at the time that I decided I need to set up, it's just that I was fed up with paid employment. I put in so much work, and I have some gaps in what I consider as standard living based on what I do for the bank and the time that I put into it. One of the things which I think happens to most entrepreneurs is that once they switch off from that stuff, you cannot get their best into it. All of us do that. So at that point in time, I know that every minute I spend in the bank is going to be a disservice to me as an individual, so I had to leave. And then immediately I went into Superflux. I saw the gap because I was in the bank. I saw the gap between going to the government press
to the mint to print
checks, and I had big drama with mint because there are certain things that the integrity or Guarantee Trust will not allow you to do. So sometimes I just go and park my car in front of mint and say, look, if I don't get my check today, because then your waiting period was about a year. So the gap was there.
You saw it on your job,
and I saw it on.
And you went out on the streets to exploit that gap,
and exploited.
And you started printing checks for banks.
Yes, immediately. And then when people tasted it, within 1 year, we were directly, immediately market leaders within a year. So it was.
And then you've written this book. I've read it. I find it interesting. And you have this concept. It's called the mind's game.
Yes.
There are 2 concepts in the book I want to discuss very quickly. Yeah. The mind's game itself, and then the arometa.
Yes. Well, the mind's game is my way of, I go to a lot of sessions with different institutions, and they ask me various questions, and there are recurring decimals as to what should this be and all that. And I felt that, look, let me document these things for posterity. What is the mindset of an entrepreneur? And when you're interacting with people, call it in any kind of motive. Even this session, we want to impress on people about certain things. So we have the people's mind. We're talking about how to position ourselves or how to deliver our message to the right spot in that receptacle. That's all the concept about the mind's game. And it takes place in business, in pleasure and all that. And we are saying that if you don't understand how the mind works, for the other party, you will not.
So this is essentially about the power of the mind.
Deciding
you want to be an entrepreneur.
From an entrepreneurial angle.
Point of view.
That this is what I want to do. This is how, even market positioning, selling, doing everything is still about one mind playing against the other mind. And that's just the whole.
And then arometa.
Arometa is like a collegiate system that developed out of necessity, and I sat back and I looked at it. A tripod is minimum legs you need for stability. It just happens to be metal, but it's a collegiate system where three boys,
say of your close friends,
three of you friends, come together and say, look, we're going to be responsible for each other's business. We may not have direct investment there, but we will set targets that
critique each other, report to each other, be accountable to each other.
The most important thing is that we're accountable to each other. If there's anything we want to do, it is 3, because then you can have a majority. So if I am presenting a case to the 2 other guys, I only need 1 more consent before we turn into majority. That way, you don't lose out on initiative, and you don't also become an autocrat in that process. And that has worked perfectly for us.
And to be true, the 3 of you, I can mention, Reddington Hospital, and Touchdown Travels, and Superflux.
Yes. And in each of our businesses, we're market leaders. Yes.
Tokunbo Talabi, thank you for coming on the Policy House.
Yes, right. Thank you so much for having me here.
We've heard from 2 divergent sources: the academic, the theoretical, the conceptual, and the practical and actualizing about the factors that drive successful entrepreneurship. From the whole discussion, several points stand out. You need to delay your gratification. You need ideas and creativity rather than necessarily money. And you can train yourself. You can improve your skills and competencies in entrepreneurship. Apprenticeship, training under somebody who knows better, can help and does help. On the other hand, your mind matters as well. Can you conceive? Do you see yourself? Can you will yourself to be a successful entrepreneur? It is important to have integrity, to have a good reputation, and to do the right things. Finally, it seems that you need networks, relationships, to learn, to hold yourself accountable, to act as a sounding board. With these factors, and of course with a lot of others which we can't cover in this discussion, many of us, much more of us, can be successful entrepreneurs rather than looking for jobs that don't exist. Thank you very much for watching the Policy Council. See you next time.